Hey guys, welcome back. Today I'm talking all about Kendrick Johnson. So before I get into it, please do me a favor and hit subscribe. It really helps my channel out a lot. These videos tend to get demonetized because of the graphic details and basically the subject matter. So thank you. So now let's get into it. So Kendrick Johnson was a 17-year-old guy from Georgia. He attended high school and he was described as athletic, intelligent, and quiet. Kendrick played football at his high school and he planned to do the same thing in college, and he was very excited about it and he was quite talented in football. And this whole case took place at Lowndes High School in Georgia. So if you see me looking down during this video, it's because I'm looking at notes. There is a lot of details, a lot of things have happened, so just bear with me. Kendrick was sadly found dead at his high school gymnasium on January 11th, 2013. He was wrapped up in a wrestling mat. That night he was watching a sporting event at his high school, and by the time 10:30 came around that night, he still hadn't returned home. So his mom was calling and texting him. At about 11:30, he still wasn't home and he wasn't answering his phone. So his mom decided to go to the school to look for him and, see what's up. Midnight came and went, and Kendrick was still missing. No one had heard from him, so she decided to call the police. So around 10:30 the next morning, school is in session, everything is normal, and some kids in the gym go to a corner and they see something in a mat. And sadly, they see feet sticking out, and this is Kendrick inside of the mat. At first they thought it was a prank or they thought it was a fake person, but sadly they realized that this was real. And then they moved him. So, they're just kids. They didn't realize that this was a crime scene. They did move him. They did, contaminate the crime scene. But again, it's not their fault. But this just adds a huge problem to a case which has so many problems to begin with. Everyone was notified. The police were called. The school was on lockdown. Everyone was freaking out. And I can only imagine how scared the kids and the teachers must have been. Jackie, his mother, was actually at the school when this was happening, and she heard just from other people that her son was found dead in the gym. So I can't even imagine how hard this must be for her to find out that her son passed, as she heard it through gossip. It's just very tragic and heartbreaking. I mean, there's no good way to be told that your loved one has passed, but in this way, it's horrible. So the condition of Kendrick's body was not good. It was straight up frightening. So he was upside down or head first with his feet hanging up, and his arms were kind of back. They weren't stretched out. Immediately the police want to find out if there's cameras and, go through the surveillance, and as they do, it's just strange. Here's why. There's a video which shows Kendrick entering the gym. He is alone, no one is following him, and nothing looks too out of the ordinary. They found him. There was 2 pairs of shoes, a textbook, and 1 pair of shoes that was separated. 1 shoe from the separate pair was wrapped up in the mat, and the other was right next to his legs inside of the mat as well. The Lowndes County Police Department performed an autopsy pretty quick, and they concluded that Kendrick had died due to suffocation. So no foul play. They claimed that it was an accident, a tragic freak accident, and this is according to the Georgia Bureau of Investigation. To the conclusion that they believe he dropped one of his shoes in the mat, and he went to retrieve it, basically head first, and he simply got stuck, couldn't get out, and suffocated. I mean, is it possible? Yeah. Is it likely? Probably not. Wouldn't he scream if he were stuck? Somebody should have heard him. Also, the width of the wrestling mat was smaller than the width of Kendrick's shoulder. So how exactly did he get inside if he were to, dive down as they were claiming? Of course, this raised red flags with people. It just didn't make any sense, and they didn't exactly believe the coroner. They just wanted to know the truth. Maybe it was a freak accident. They do happen, but maybe it wasn't. So the day after Kendrick was found, Reverend Floyd Rose of the Valdosta Southern Christian Leadership Conference was approached by Kendrick's family. He was asked to run an independent investigation. So they wanted someone who they felt like they could trust in this matter. He agreed to help, and April 2013, the Johnson family held hands and they blocked the way at the Lowndes County Courthouse as a peaceful protest. And this resulted in them getting arrested, which I think is a little bit far-fetched. You know, they weren't doing anything wrong. They just wanted some justice. You know, somebody died here. So Reverend Rose heard of this, and he even put up his own house as collateral in order to bail his family out, Kendrick's family. So this just shows like how great of a guy he really is. So a new pathologist was hired in order to perform a second autopsy on Kendrick. And the findings were a little bit surprising. So the private pathologist that was hired noticed something crazy. He noticed that every organ inside of Kendrick's body was taken out. It was just gone. Nothing more. And not only that, but it was replaced with newspaper, like crumpled up newspaper. So, of course, this is shocking, it's sad, it's confusing, and very, very just dark. So the funeral home was obviously asked about this, and they said they had no idea, they did not do it, and that the body was like that when they received it. They claimed that the coroner who performed the first autopsy was responsible for taking his organs out. So basically, it was speculated that they removed his organs because he had deteriorated, you know, he was not alive anymore. But is this normal? Like, I'm not an expert, but I don't think they remove every single organ from someone's body after they have passed. I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong. Honestly, it just sounds crazy. Like, this is why there are so many theories out there, because there's just so many crazy unanswered questions. Were his organs sold? Was he murdered? Was this like a whole black market thing? Honestly. So another finding that the doctor found was possible blunt force trauma to the back of the head. However, he noticed that it was very small. It was only about 2 centimeters big, so he's not really sure if this could cause death in this case. I don't know, I'm not an expert, but this seems like a very small contusion in order to create a death. On July 28, 2014, the Johnson family filed a wrongful death suit against the Lowndes County Board of Education. The case claimed that Kendrick didn't just die because of an accident, but rather he was attacked and murdered by someone, and the motive behind the murder was racism. I don't think there was any evidence of this. I'm not sure why they went this route. And so the lawsuit specifically talked about 2 students. They claimed that these 2 students had bullied and attacked Kendrick in the past. Again, this isn't proven as far as I can tell. The lawsuit also claims that the school's cameras were not up to par and that they should have been better, essentially. And I agree with this. This is why it's so important for businesses and schools to have adequate cameras. You know, it shouldn't take a death in order for them to get an upgrade to their cameras. Like, these cameras need to be in good shape because anything can happen, you know, just like this. I won't mention the names that are in the lawsuit, the people who are accused, but if you Google it, it all comes up, but I don't want to put their names out there like that. There's a magazine called Ebony, and they made multiple articles about the Kendrick Johnson case, which would have been great. However, they were essentially accusing these 2 boys who are brothers. They're accusing them of murder, basically. So they didn't name any names in the magazine, but they basically described these 2 boys. So this caused even more problems. In August 2014, the boys' parents filed a lawsuit against Ebony magazine claiming basically defamation and slander of their sons. They claimed that their sons were getting death threats and harassed over this article. I mean, I get it. If you are being blamed for murder with no evidence, I mean, of course, you're going to receive threats, and that's a problem. One of the boys who was accused, he had a football scholarship to FSU, and that was actually revoked in the midst of this whole big scandal. And even though he wasn't proven to be guilty, and there was essentially no evidence that he harmed Kendrick, he still had to suffer. So this is why it's impacting a lot of people, like in their future, their whole life. By this time, Kendrick's mom is still convinced that his death was not an accident. She's convinced that somebody murdered him. In January 2015, Kendrick's family filed a $100 million lawsuit where they claim the accused boy's father ordered his 2 sons to kill Kendrick. So this is a little bit outlandish in my opinion. There's no evidence that any of this is happening, and that is a lot of money to sue somebody for, $100 million. Shortly thereafter, Kendrick's mom did dismiss this lawsuit, and this whole thing was just getting really messy at this point, and it's just, you know, there's so much sadness, and now you're dragging the law into it, and you're filing lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit. I feel bad for everybody who's involved. Because the Johnson family had accused multiple people, they got many legal officials involved. They ended up having to pay $850,000 in attorney's fees, $1 million for defamation. In August 2017, a judge ordered that the Johnson family had to pay $292,000 in attorney fees and to the people they accused in this lawsuit. So it really did just backfire on them, and you know, it sucks. So jumping back a bit, it was discovered that the crime scene was basically screwed from the beginning. The detectives and cops that were there, they didn't wear any protective covering over their shoes. They did not have caution tape over the crime scene, and people were coming in and out. Also, the pair of shoes and the hoodie that was found near the body were never taken into evidence, so there could have been important clues or DNA, you know, and they just, you know, didn't think it was important, I guess. There was also some blood on the wall near Kendrick's body, and again, this was not taken into evidence. It was not tested. They did not collect a sample, nothing. So we don't know whose blood that is. I mean, blood is DNA, so why were they not testing it? Like, is this crappy detective work, or is there a dark reason why they are being so negligent, basically? So I think that's why there's so many theories and dark theories about this case, because so much is just wrong. CNN ended up going hard on Chris Prine, and they kind of bombarded his office with questions, and they really wanted answers. He basically kicked them out, didn't want anything to do with them, and said, no, he's not talking about the case. So jumping back to an earlier part, the cameras inside the gym where Kendrick was found, they were analyzed by a private video analyzer. You know, they wanted a fresh set of eyes to take a look at this footage and see what they come up with. So after the examination, they concluded this.
Which made the Johnsons and their attorneys suspicious the video had been edited. But Fredericks has a bigger concern.
But this video is not the best evidence. It's been changed and altered so that we are missing information, and what we have been provided is not the best quality.
Altered by copying, but also raising questions about whether everything was copied.
So in 2015, Reverend Rose, the generous guy from earlier, he came out and said he no longer feels like he believes Kendrick was murdered. He believes it was a tragic accident. So there are people on both sides, and honestly, both sides make sense. You know, an accident makes sense, and a murder also makes sense. You know, people think that he was bullied or attacked, but honestly, there wasn't a lot of evidence for this. There was no blood on him, there was no defense wounds or marks, so an assault, it's just such a shame how all of this has turned out in this case. Kendrick lost his life. You know, his family is going through lawsuit after lawsuit, and they lost their son. Many other lives have been affected by this as well. So, an update on June 20th, 2018, Kendrick's mother decided to dig up Kendrick's body again for a third autopsy. She claims that she doesn't want to do this, but she feels like she has to, so that way she can get some answers, finally. I mean, I get it. She's a mother, and she wants to get to the bottom of this. She doesn't want to have to spend the rest of her life wondering what happened. There's a new update just 3 days ago. Basically, they claim that the case is closed, that they will not be doing any more investigations, despite there being over 1 million people who signed a petition to open this case. They're saying it's closed. I'm not sure. I hope it gets open again, because this whole thing is just tragic and confusing, and everybody deserves the truth. So I will put the link down below if you want to sign the petition to open the case. And yeah, that's it for me today, guys. Just be safe out there, guys. Don't go into small places where you think you can't get out of. Just be careful. And yeah, that is it for me. So thank you so much for watching, guys. Please subscribe. Thank you.